So our guest this week on the Comlink is musician and mega Star Wars fan Darren Hayes.
I'm such a fan.
You are a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah, and a fan of the show.
You're a fan of the show.
Totally.
You might be the first fan of the show that's come on because we're so new.
It's so cool. I was telling you guys before that I've been watching and I was impressed with your set.
Oh, yes.
And I wasn't sure if it was a green screen or not, so when I walked into this room I was kind of geeking out at all the props. And
there it is. It's real. You can pick it up and you know, touch things. And
I will touch things later
Be
on.
careful of the Sith holocron, though, because
Right.
it's got a mind of its own. But besides having this mega career as a musician and a singer, you're a huge Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Massive
I'm probably a bigger Star Wars fan than I am a fan of my career. Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, huge.
So when you were a kid, obviously, you know, there was a video that circulated online of Christmas of 1980, I think it was. And was it really sort of the movies or the action figures, or what was it that got you into Star Wars? Because you've been a fan since you were a really young kid.
Yeah, I'm 42. So although the first Star Wars film that I saw in a theater was Jedi, and now you can get your small violins out because we were really poor. And we couldn't really afford the movie tickets, but I had the most amazing mom. And she basically, it was Christmas of 1980, I think you're referring to, when Empire came out. And she'd worked all year, and she purchased like 24 of the Kenner figurines. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite memories. And not just about Star Wars and, you know, and what the films mean to all of us, but I think in terms of sacrifice and family and what you do for people that you love. But why Star Wars? I was the right age. I think I was a kid who had a troubled family, and I looked at the story of Luke Skywalker and I was inspired. I just thought there's hope. You know, I looked at this guy who looked off into a sunset and imagined a greater purpose. And I related to that, and in so many ways, that message, I think, has really changed my life.
So Star Wars was not just something that you just loved as a movie, but it was very personal for you.
Yeah, totally. I think George was incredible in tapping into a very universal story. You know, I think each of us feels like maybe there's a battle going on in a galaxy somewhere else that we're meant to be a part of, and that's kind of like finding your tribe in life or finding your purpose. And for me, as a boy, you know, my family life was turbulent. You know, my dad was you know, he had some problems, but the amount of love and support that I had from my mother and my sister, and in spite of having no money, you know, in spite of feeling like most kids do, where you just feel like a freak or you get bullied at school, I knew that the hero's journey, that my journey was something that I had to find and do on my own.
Was that something that stayed with you from, say, Christmas of 1980 all the way into the beginning of, to the launch of your career? Maybe was that 97, 98? I mean, you guys, Savage Garden, I'm sure you all know, just blew up in about the late 90s, right?
Yeah, it was like 90, I think 96.
96, right, with the debut album. Yeah, and was that something that carried all the way, or obviously you go through your teenage years, and there was a while where Star Wars, I remember even for me, went through kind of a dormant period. You know, like the sort of 80s into the 90s, the lost years, and then came
the dark years.
The dark years, yes, exactly. Before the dark times. How did you go from being sort of a mega Star Wars fan to finding your musical voice, and then coming back to love it as an adult?
So many things. What's really interesting about that is, how do you go from being a kid that loves toys, and then suddenly you're a teenage boy and you're supposed to be into adult male things? And the reason I collect figurines to this day and all the Kenner stuff is because I sold it all off, because I was embarrassed about my Star Wars in the lost years, in the dark years. I was kind of like, yeah, I'm not into that, it's, you know, whatever. Biggest mistake of my life. You know, I think in some ways music kind of filled that gap. So when I was a kid, I had this obsession with Star Wars and toys. And then, you know, that greater dream of singing and entertaining and making music was my, I guess that was my time on Dagobah. I don't know. But the minute we had some success, I didn't buy cars or watches or whatever. I bought a mint collection of Kenner figurines that are behind UV glass at this point.
Really? So now you're a collector, and you've I mean, but is it all the classic stuff? Or?
It's only the classic stuff, and I'm not a hater on any of this stuff. I really dig the Gentle Giant stuff. I've got tons of lightsabers, things like that. But it really is the Kenner stuff from 77 to what, 84?
84, yeah, with the coins. I think that's when they had the...
Well, that's the Power of the Force stuff. Even that to me is a little... no, I just like the first issue stuff.
Just the first issue stuff. So I heard also a story about the Dagobah set was one that you were just really, really obsessed with. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I remember that initial set, you know, and it had the little like quicksand swampy thing.
Right.
And
So Empire's my favorite film. Dagobah is probably one of my favorite universes or places in the Star Wars world, probably because it was so complete, and I still, you know, I love Jim Henson, and I thought Yoda was such an incredible character. But man, that playset was expensive and hard to get, and the following year, after the film came out, that was like the one toy that I really wanted. And I feel a bit bad about this, I've confessed this to my mother, but it was after I realized there was no Santa Claus, and the present was sitting under the tree for a couple of days wrapped. And I remember just walking up to the tree and just pressing the paper, and I could just see the Empire Strikes Back logo.
The red.
And I was like, please, let it be, you know. And then every now and then I'd walk up to the present when no one was looking, and I kind of worked out that it was the Dagobah set.
Wow.
It was lost in the great turnaround where I sold all my toys. And that was one of the first things I rebought as an adult. And it sits, it's hilarious. It's basically in carbon freeze. It's in a Perspex UV box. Everybody thinks I'm the 40-year-old virgin. I don't care. I will never open that thing. I have a version of that toy that I play with, and I have one that I'll never open. It's just
exactly. There. I'm not the 40-year-old virgin. I've got two of them.
Exactly. Yeah,
right, exactly. Yeah. That's incredible. You know, I had a similar moment, and it might have been 81 or 82, where I saw The Empire Strikes Back, but it was Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. Do you remember this toy? But it looked nothing like the Star Destroyer.
It was just the bridge, right?
It was like the bridge, and it had a little, it had the Emperor hologram, or it had the little thing. I had no idea what it was for years. Yeah. And even though I knew it was a Star Destroyer, I never made the correlation. But Dagobah, that was a real,
like, you know, you get to sink R2 into the foam.
Yes.
Get to levitate stuff. I had a Kodak 110 camera, and I used to do all my behind the scenes and special effects shots. There were two things I used to recreate. One was I'd put a snow speeder on a piece of string, and I'd try to light it on fire. Because because it was one of my favorite special effects shots from SPFX, the making of Empire Strikes Back, and the other one was just anything on Dagobah. So I'd take all these action shots, and Luke levitated all sorts of stuff. Maybe even our cat.
Nice. So I mean, is this something that still kind of goes on now, or is it just, you know, just
no, the UV? It totally is. It's so sad. I mean, I married. My husband is a huge Star Wars fan. In fact, we watched. Yeah, we watched The Empire Strikes Back on our first date. How could you not marry someone that did that for you? And it's kind of funny. I mean, we come downstairs sometimes, and we have to make sure that we're not wearing the same Star Wars shirt.
Right.
I mean, it's pretty sad. I love it, but it's pretty sad.
Wow.
When we moved to America, he sort of made a bit of a rule that I couldn't have the entire house be decorated, because I got a collection of the vintage posters and a Revenge of the Jedi poster, like a first issue and things like that. It did start to look a little bit like Rancho Obi-Wan at our house, so he's drawn the line a little bit there.
So you're in Savage Garden. You've got, I think you had something like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was like 5 #1 hits, wasn't it?
Man, I'd love that. No, that's much better than statistics. What's crazy about Savage Garden is we sold like 30 million albums, which is crazy.
It was huge at the
time.
I
mean, even for us, it was kind of crazy, because I laugh about it, but now, I mean, I've never stopped making music, but you know, mostly in the United States, no one really knows my musical career as Darren Hayes. In England and in Australia, I play venues like the Royal Albert Hall or Sydney Opera House, and here I'm just that guy that studies improv, which I love. But the period of, like, it was 4 years, 2 albums. It's funny because I almost feel like it happened to someone else, but I think we have the #1 and #2 most played songs on Billboard AC radio history since the chart began, which is insane. And as a songwriter, I think that's an incredible privilege. I'm proud of that. I'm not proud of some of my hairstyles, but you know what?
We all lived through it.
It is.
All right.
It
you know, if someone shows you a
man.
picture of you, you just turn right back and show them a picture of them, right?
Exactly.
I mean, we were all
my
there.
career is one big yearbook with only photos of me. You know, it's a high school yearbook where there are only photos of me. But no, it's cool, man. I'm really grateful it brought me to. Well, it brought me to this country. It brought me to Star Wars. I have so many Star Wars experiences that came to me from the career, from the band, so I'm very grateful.
Because you reached out? Is that
The first reaching out was, it was actually George Lucas's office reached out because one of George's daughters was a fan of the band, and we were playing a show, I think, in San Francisco, and I met his children. And he had this incredible assistant called Jane Bay. I don't know if Jane still works with him.
I don't know if she does, actually.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 rules in business. Smell good. So I try to smell good.
You smell lovely, for those of you that can't tell on YouTube.
Well, it's just important to smell good. And just send a gift basket, right? So they invited me to Skywalker Ranch, which was just insane. I mean, it was my version of Fanboys, just insane. So I sent them a gift basket, and just me doing that, Jane always appreciated that I was a polite person. So I established this relationship where I was at most of those first screenings for the new films and got to go to the ranch a few times and eventually audition for Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, you have to tell us about this because we've heard about this, but can you walk us through the story of Darren Hayes auditioning for Revenge of the Sith?
Sure.
First of all, what was the part?
There was no part. This is how pathetic it is.
Okay.
This is when you are a musician, at some point you'll get an acting agent. I don't know why, but they give you an acting agent because Rihanna was in a film once. So what they do is you suddenly have an acting agent and they start calling you up for parts. And I said, listen, the only thing I want to be in is Star Wars. There are new films, and I would call them every week. I'm like, they're going into pre-production. There's a script, like everything. I think even it was just when the first website, you know, when StarWars.com launched again, and it was everything for episode 1. So I was all over that, and they just got sick of me. And we were on tour in Australia, and they were shooting at Fox Studios in Sydney. And they said, yep, come in and meet the casting director, whose name I've now forgotten. She was lovely though. And I went in and they gave me some sides, and I think it was a scene that wasn't even in the final cut of the film. Maybe I was playing some kind of politician, I think. But essentially, the casting director sort of was looking at the script. She looked at me. And at that point, I couldn't even do an American accent. She said, can you do an American accent? I was like, no. And she said, I'm looking at the script and I'm looking at you and I have nothing. And I just went, okay. And then there was this calm silence, and she said, would you like to have a look on the set? And I was like, yes! So that's all I really wanted. And so I got to walk around the sets, and I think I was on Amidala's cruiser, and I think I was in her apartment.
Oh, really? The blue apartment? What about the terrace there with the little fountain and all of that?
No, I didn't see that set, but I did see a recreation of the Lars homestead as well. They had built the interior of that, and
wow.
I think it might have even been Gavin. Is it Gavin Bouquet? The set?
Gavin Bouquet was there.
I think I had a conversation with him. I didn't even realise it, and he was talking about how they had recreated the painting of the stucco on the ceiling, and they had all these reference pictures from from the set. An incredible moment. So far better than me playing a rock or a fifth Wookiee, or, you know.
Would you have taken it though?
Yes, in a heartbeat.
Wookiee number 5, that would have been amazing.
In a heartbeat. Well, who wouldn't? I mean, come on.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, George painted himself blue and you know, did all kinds of crazy stuff.
His kids were in the films. I mean, it was just. I think at one point even NSYNC were rumored to have.
Yes, for Attack of the Clones, they were rumored
but it didn't happen
to be there.
Or something.
No, and I remember I was working there at the time, and I remember the NSYNC thing because they came to visit. They kind of did the tour thing. I don't know for sure about this, but I think that they went down to ILM, and so much shooting was happening at ILM at the time, and I think that they were inserted. Maybe I'm sure it kind of went back and forth, but then it blew up, right?
Yeah, it became a thing, and they took them out. I mean, I think Joey, who's my favourite member of NSYNC,
Joey Fatone.
He's an amazing guy and a huge Star Wars fan, so I think that he would have just about lost it.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah, it would have been. But thinking about it, I'm kind of glad. Like I love that Star Wars has a history of new, unrecognizable faces, new talent, and to have NSYNC or me, I mean, what was I thinking in that? It just would have. I don't want to see that movie, so no.
So we have a new movie coming out.
Totally, I'll be in any of them.
Yes, all right, so The Force Awakens. All right, you're available.
Absolutely.
Then, to go to Pinewood.
Yeah. Let's say maybe in anything.
Oh, well, there you go.
I've got it all.
Because we want to have Jar Jar back in Episode 7.
Why not?
Yeah,
if that's what it takes, I'll be Jar Jar.
Perfect. Yeah. No, but so there are new movies that are coming out. Are you excited about The Force Awakens? What are your thoughts about what we know about it so far?
Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Listen, I have to say this very respectfully, and because I am a fan and I'm a fanboy, and I'm very honest about my opinions about Star Wars. I'm not a fan of the prequels. I get it. I'm not. Some people are, some people aren't. I'm not. JJ, I'm a huge fan of. Lawrence Kasdan, I'm a huge fan of. The entire team behind this film is thrilling to me. Kathleen Kennedy, I mean, I have so much respect for George Lucas, so much respect for George Lucas. And as an artist, I completely understand and respect that he is an auteur, and the prequels are films that are so personal to him. And I've managed to find a way to really see where I fit within the fandom. So much of what I love about Star Wars is related to my memories of my youth. I had so many expectations about the prequels that I don't know that I'll ever be able to see them in the way that, say, my nephew did. I know so many kids that are obsessed with those films, you know, yeah. And even the Clone Wars cartoons. For me, Rebels, Episode 7, Kathleen, Lawrence Kasdan, this new cast, Kathleen be involved. To me, this reminds me of what I loved about Star Wars in the beginning. There's a focus on, I don't know, on the heritage maybe, a heritage and a respect. When I watch Rebels, I'm falling in love with it more every week. It's such a wonderful homage, I think, to all the things, starting with Ralph McQuarrie, which for me is a huge part of why I love Star Wars. I feel like George Lucas is this incredible visionary and storyteller who literally changed my life. Ralph McQuarrie, I mean, that man is responsible for some of the most iconic images in cinema history. If you think about Darth Vader, you think about C-3PO, R2-D2. I mean, obviously, I know that there are other designers involved, but that universe, that used universe, that place somewhere far away, but somehow science fiction, but not really science fiction, that was so unique to Star Wars. I feel like that's what's coming back. That's what I'm into. So I'm very excited.
What was your reaction when you first saw that black and white photo, that cast photo? Did you suspect that they were all in the movie? I mean, I think we kind of hoped, but
I hoped. Really emotional, because I'd been to that studio, and in fact, when we've just moved here from England. I was in England for 10 years, and one of the last things we did was attend Empire Day, which was at Shepperton Studios, I think. Right. No, Pinewood Studios, one of them. I should.
They're both owned by the same. They're both technically.
But where Empire was shot, and
Elstree.
There you go. Yeah, Elstree. Yeah. But Gary Kurtz was there, and you know, I'm such a huge fan, and I stood on the sound stage where, you know, Vader chopped Luke's hand off, or Luke's prosthetic hand off, and I had such a lump in my throat, and I remember leaving that studio and just thinking how lucky I am to have these experiences. And when I saw that black and white photo from the new film, it looked like it could have been from 77 or 1980. And again, I just think it's that hat tip to the fans. I mean, again, it's George Lucas's absolute right to essentially say, F you. This is my thing, you know, to fans. I get that. And I've done that myself, you know. I'm sure many people wish that, not everyone, but some people wish that my band had never ended, or that I made different kinds of music. But I've always made choices in my career that made me happy, as George does. But in some ways, I think that has alienated some fans. And I like that JJ is basically trying to be inclusive. I wish he'd have a few more spoilers, but I think he's being inclusive. Right. It started with Rebels. I think in terms of really going back to the Ralph McQuarrie designs, I think that respect for the origin and the heritage and what makes that universe special for people, that seems to be what everyone is doing. That feels to me what Lucasfilm is about at the moment. Understanding the value of this canon. I could talk about this forever, so
I love it. That's what we're here for, right? Yeah, yeah.
I think they really understand the canon of that, and I really appreciate that. I feel like I'm being invited back into Star Wars again. I was one of those fans who really didn't get into the extended universe. I didn't get into a lot of the stuff apart from the amazing video games. I found it hard to find my way in there. Now I feel like I've been invited back into the universe again, and we're all playing together, and it's cool.
Right.
You know, and I as a fan, that feels amazing.
There is clearly a return to sort of the classic trilogy that is happening. It's kind of a renaissance, like you mentioned. How much room is there for JJ to push stylistically versus having the danger of just kind of retreading familiar ground?
I mean, that's a tough one. I mean, obviously I love practical sets. I love puppets, you know, I love a lot of the things that are tangible about filmmaking. And that's not to say that I'm a Luddite and I don't appreciate digital technology. I mean, clearly it's transformed cinema in an incredible way, and I think in the history of Star Wars, George has always been about new technology. So it would be kind of ignorant to say that some of that won't be a part of this future filmmaking. And also it might, you know, you don't want anyone to make the holiday special, you know, just to be that you know, let's shoot it on video cassette.
I would watch it.
I would watch
it. I mean, you know.
But, you know, I think it's a joke. But, you know, obviously I can't imagine there'll be lens flares. There's a visual language to Star Wars. There are wipes. There are dissolves. There are certain modern cinematic devices that I think would be very jarring in a Star Wars world.
Absolutely.
So I'm assuming that they won't be in there. I think for anyone who was concerned at all about how JJ views nostalgia, they should see Super 8.
Right.
Which in itself is sort of an homage to Spielberg, and it's an homage to E.T. and films of that era. And I think he does that very well. It's a modern film, but it feels like it's...
It had that spirit of fun. It had that kind of E.T. meets Goonies, like the kids
I was going to say Goonies, yeah. But and believable, and you know, one of the things I keep flipping back between Episode 7 and Rebels, but I do think that they're in some ways they're sympathetic to each other. The character of Ezra, to me, he's very Star Wars. I really relate to that kid. He embodies that kind of displaced hero. You know, Star Wars, if anything, is about the hero's journey. They've got that tone right, and I think it's exciting with this new young cast. I mean, last night I was with friends of mine and we were sort of trying to work out what we think the plot will be for the new film, and we were sort of placing bets on which one of the three will be killed.
Right.
Because I really feel like if Harrison Ford gets his way, you know, Han Solo will eventually perish.
Yeah,
you know, will Luke Skywalker...
I've been trying to have him kill me off for like 3 movies here. And
you want me to stay because of the way you feel about me.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not related at all, but that's the only Han Solo I can do. But, you know, I imagine that I'm looking forward to some of that stuff. I'm looking forward to, is Luke going to be a crazy old hermit? Is Carrie going to smoke cigarettes on set? Who knows? I don't know.
Is she going to be vaping? And
you know what? She's just, oh gosh, damn, Wickets, come here. I hope Wickets
come here.
Yeah.
He's all gray-haired.
Relax. It's a rice cake. I was devastated when I found out that she fed Wicket a rice cake. I always thought it was like white chocolate or some kind of space protein bar.
I thought it was like a Nilla wafer, and that's actually funny because...
Rice cakes.
And I thought it was like a Twix bar.
Me too.
That Yoda... You thought it was a Twix bar, right? That Yoda actually steals and is munching on in Dagobah?
Mine, yeah.
Yeah. And of course there's like the little trackball racket in Anakin's room. There's all kinds of stuff from childhood. You're like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, I recognize that.
Who does the set dressing here?
Yeah, someone clever, because we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. Now I feel like a snack, so... Yeah. You mentioned video games, and you mentioned kind of other avenues. Obviously it's been 10 years between movies. You're a gamer.
Okay, let me clarify that, because my friends take the piss out of me all the time. I am a Star Wars gamer.
Great.
Right? Yeah. I don't really have a lot of skills when it comes to like...
Call of Duty or...
No, and it's just, you know what it is? Battlefront are probably my favorite of everything. I mean, apart from... oh gosh, there are so many great games. I mean, I loved a lot of the PC games. I loved TIE Fighter, I loved Rogue Squadron, I loved a lot of that stuff. But I'm a huge fan of Battlefront. It's so immersive. I'm so excited about the new one coming. Like, the trailer for that it's insane. Yeah. Incredible, and Hoth is my favorite place to play. So if I can be on foot as a rebel soldier, if I can be at the ion cannon, if I can be in and out, whatever, that's like my favorite thing. So a lot of the Battlefront stuff, and Bespin in Battlefront is incredible.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
But listen, I'm not very competitive. I spend a lot of time running around different platforms and trying to get into secret places and doors. It's just the way that I can literally live out my childhood fantasies of just hanging out in the Star Wars universe. But sorry, I derailed you. We were talking about Star Wars games.
No, I love it. That is a Star Wars game.
My favorite game.
I worked on Battlefront, so it's great.
Oh, wow. Okay, did you?
Yeah, Battlefront 1 and 2. And
they are two of the finest and most immersive video games. I mean, I owe a lot of my marriage to those games, because when we first met, Richard and I would just spend ages just playing them. And this was, I think, Battlefront 2, which was the first time you could actually play Luke with a lightsaber.
It was Battlefront 2. Yeah, that's when we added the hero characters and
which I loved, you know, and I still to this day, I'm just thinking about it, I get nervous when Darth Vader turns up. Like, it's just so cool.
Yeah. Darth Vader has entered the battle. Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Attention! The red zone is for loading and unloading only. No, that's the wrong thing.
Wait a second. So you played a lot of PC games, like the Jedi Knight games, and of course TIE Fighter Next Wing just got re-released recently.
Which I saw, so that's for free, I think, right?
It's like $10, but then I went to install it. I need to go and buy a joystick. I don't have the old PC joystick, but I used to spend hours.
You can do it. Can you do it with arrow keys?
It won't even let you launch unless you have some kind of controller or something like that.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Atari you know, Star Wars is my favorite. There was a sit-down version in our arcade gallery when I was a kid.
The vector graphic old arcade box from '83, I think.
Yeah, and it's a work of art. And it's that, I think it's called a yoke, but that piece of equipment is super, it's just incredible. And it's funny when you talked about the dark period of Star Wars, that game was so popular that it stuck around for a decade. And it was this holy grail of arcades, you know, and then suddenly you had things like Street Fighter and all these, you know, much more sort of technologically advanced games. But that was still, you would still line up to play the sit-down version of Star Wars.
That and the Return of the Jedi game. But really, it was that Star Wars game.
Yeah,
right?
Man, I can't be dealing with the speeder bikes though. It was a bit like Frogger.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, I have Empire as well. I have a cartridge that I can change out in my machine. It's okay, but it's all about Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a songwriter and as a musician, you're having a lot of success in the '90s. The special editions are coming out.
Yeah.
Did your business manager or anybody say, "Hey, what's this receipt for all this Star Wars"?
It's pretty sad. I went and saw. I remember seeing the first special edition at the Beverly Center, and they had the whole one side of the building was just for Star Wars, and it was very exciting to go and see those movies again in a cinema. I think Jedi was still my favorite, apart from the reinserted song, and I still have not gotten over the fact that the Ewok song was changed at the end. But hey, that's just me.
Right.
The Celebration song is my jam, yo.
Yeah.
So
the Yub Nub Jam.
Yub Nub. Yeah.
Yub Nub means freedom. Apparently, we found out.
To me, it does as well. So
exactly.
I have that.
It means
tattooed.
freedom to all of us. Yeah.
No,
You have a tattoo?
I don't. I wish. No, I wish.
It's in a place I can't show you right now, but
I have to be 25 feet away from all humans now. But
intervention time.
yeah, exactly.
No, but you're still playing music, right? Besides being a Star Wars fan, you've had solo careers. You've been going on, and you still do you tour, or are you mostly in the studio?
I mean this is so funny. For 2 years, I've basically been doing improv here in LA. I'm just about to start a comedy podcast with a fellow groundling.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, a really dear friend of mine called Tim Stanton, who is hilarious, and we have a show called He Said that I've been working on for ages. And it's hard, I think, if you've someone like me who I've come from a completely different discipline.
Right.
And then also, I face two challenges. I either face disappointment when a fan is like, "Oh man, you're gonna make music," or somebody that's like, "I thought you were dead," you know. So the doing improv and acting, I've been doing it very quietly for a couple of years now because I recently just did a play that I told people about that they could come and see, but there's one improv troupe I perform in that I don't even tell anyone. It's every couple of Sundays I do that in front of people. And it's really sweet because I don't ask for any favors. I just turn up, and it means a lot to me when a stranger will say, "You're really good at that," because I haven't had a dream since I was 16. You know, my first dream was that I was going to work on Star Wars films. I was probably 5 or 6, and I decided I was going to I'd be friends with Ben Burt, and that's what I would do. And then I realized it was the drama and the theatrics of entertainment and Star Wars that I really wanted. I didn't really want to do stop motion or go motion. I didn't want to have to adjust to Tauntaun. I kind of wanted to perform for people. And that obviously spiraled into music and discovering that I could sing. But I think when I turned 40, I really realized that I hadn't planted any seeds of a new dream for a long time. So moving back to America, studying improv, doing comedy, and then this new thing that I'm about to do with Tim, it really is my passion. It's the thing that makes me so happy. It doesn't pay a dime. It's not anything that anyone is raving about yet. But again, I feel really grateful for the opportunity, so that's kind of what I'm doing. I'll eventually make a record, I'm sure. Yeah. I just don't feel like it. It's crazy. My last record was 3 years ago, and it's something I'm really proud of. And I did my last show in London at the Brighton Dome, and I came off stage and I was done. I was just like, yeah, I'm ready for a break.
You're ready to do something different.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting. Sometimes you just know.
Yeah.
Well, and now there are apparently 5 Star Wars films that you can get an agent and
what
just
a
call
coincidence. How did this happen?
Yeah.
Goodness me, it's not like I'm calling my agent every single day.
No, right. Yes,
sorry, did my agent just call?
It's time again, isn't it?
Was that my, sorry, did my...
Oh,
okay.
No.
This is cool, but if my agent calls, I have to...
No, I understand. You've got to cut it. No, you've got priorities.
This is my priority, but that's bigger.
But that's a bigger priority.
Yeah.
So this isn't really... They're both good, but...
This is promotion. This is
to get you the other.
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
But it's fine. I'm happy to have both.
No, fine.
So thank you for having me for both.
Hey, we're happy to be a platform to get you in one of the movies. That would be awesome. Hopefully one of these days you can come back on the show and tell us when we can catch your latest Groundlings show or improv show.
Or when you can come and
TV
see me in episode 8 or
episode
9.
8 or 9.
Like the spin-off stories.
There should be a Savage Garden spin-off movie.
There would. That's hilarious. I love that. Yeah,
Pitch it. Come on. They're looking for ideas
At first,
here.
that character, I thought Savage was someone from the old record company. Right. Someone evil. But yes, this will happen.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show,
It's a pleasure.
Darren.
I really love the show. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.